Today's episode is brought to you by the Positively Productive Toolkit, a collection of workbooks that guide you through self-discovery and self-awareness. These self-guided workbooks, which include links to assessments, can be completed in minutes. Request this free resource and others at the positivelyproductive.com/resources page. You don't have to do it all. You're not meant to. You're meant to do what matters most, and in a way that honors your energy and your life, that honors you as a person. True success isn't about how much you can handle. It's about how well you align your efforts with your values, your energy, your season of life. You're listening to the Positively Living podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Zaratny, founder of Positively Productive Systems and a productivity coach certified in positive psychology and stress management. Join me as we explore ways to live a more proactive, positive life with episodes on productivity, self-awareness, mindset, entrepreneur life, habits and systems, simplicity, fun, and more. I understand overwhelm personally as a multi-passionate entrepreneur, wife and mom to kids and cats, and as a caregiver. I'm here to help you choose what's right for you so you can do less, live more, and breathe easier. Sound good? Let's get to it. Welcome to the Positively Living podcast. I'm your host, Lisa, and today's topic is a familiar one for my fellow caregivers and multi-passionates: trying to do it all. Or more specifically, when doing it all no longer works. This is a challenge I see with clients constantly, but in fairness, I deal with a lot of high achievers, so I understand why and how many are able to maintain incredible levels of productivity before it all becomes too much. If you're anything like me or most of my clients, you've probably had seasons of life when you really could do it all. You juggled work and maybe a business along with family and volunteering and social plans and maybe even a side project or two. It was a lot, sure, but somehow you made it happen. You might have even thrived on it for a while. But then somewhere along the line, the same goal that once felt necessary and achievable and even exciting has started leaving you exhausted, scattered, and maybe even a little resentful. You had the energy and satisfaction when you started, but things have changed. You're still trying to keep up, but no matter how many planners and apps or color-coded calendars and really fantastic systems you use, you can't seem to find the time or energy to do everything expected, whether by others or expected by you. If that resonates with you, I'm extra glad you joined me today. Let's talk about the do-it-all trap and what we need to do instead. Why do we want to do it all? Let's start by giving credit where it's due. There was a time when doing it all worked for you, for me, for so many of us. There's a particular satisfaction that comes with being the one who gets things done. So why wouldn't we want to do something that works, that makes us feel good and proud? Of course we would. High achievers, especially those of us who are multi-passionate, thrive on that sense of accomplishment and momentum. We see potential everywhere. We love learning, creating, helping, achieving. And there's this deep, almost addictive pride in being capable and dependable, being the one who gets things done. You solve the problems, soar through the goals, and find so much satisfaction in all that variety. You feel energized by a full plate and the expert juggling. And this may be something that you continue to feel. And for a while, all of that can work. You get the results, you earn the recognition, you feel needed. There's a positive feedback loop that enforces the pattern. The more we do, the more we're praised, the better we feel, and the harder it becomes to stop, the more we want to continue to do. There's another layer here as to why we tend toward this, and it's specifically for women. Many of us were raised in a culture that glorified having it all, and women fought for that right, but unfortunately, by extension, having it all then required doing it all. It was meant to be empowering, proof that we could move past the traditional limitations and could combine career, family, and passions. But the expectation was that you would keep everything running smoothly when you did that. And women took on more because they wanted to prove they could do it and because the world expected it. Somewhere between that feminist ideal of opportunity and being capable and being able to do this and the reality of life, both traditional and modern, we inherited a belief that if we wanted to prove that we're capable and worthy, we were obligated to add on instead of choosing. That belief runs deep, and for those who struggle with self-worth and those who care for others, it's compounded. And whether it's a feminist ideal or a family obligation, it's a slippery slope from wanting to help and wanting to do things for others to over-functioning on their behalf. That's something I talked about with Mallory Jackson a while back in episode 53 on codependency. Now, you hear that term a lot when it comes to addiction and therapy, but it actually threads itself through so much of our lives, especially as caregivers. Our desire to help and connect can actually turn on us. We start managing everyone else's needs and emotions, saying yes to everything because we don't want to disappoint, because it's expected of us. And doing it all not only becomes the standard practice, it becomes a burden. So now that we understand the different reasons why we tend to be drawn to it, the high achiever drive, the cultural conditioning, the codependency, let's talk about what happens next. Whether we agree with those things, whether we agree with how much we're doing, and even after we realize it's too much, why are we doing this? We keep repeating the same pattern. Why? Because our brains and emotions are working together to convince us it's the right thing to do. Our brains crave reward and familiarity. We've built an identity around being reliable, capable, needed. So even when we move into different seasons of our lives with more responsibilities, less energy, health issues, shifting priorities, we struggle to stop what we're doing. We keep pushing to maintain the current status. And we're rewarded emotionally too. Doing all of this gives us a sense of safety and control. It's how we try to manage our uncertainty and avoid guilt. Plus, saying yes feels easier sometimes. We like to be liked and we like to be helpful, and so much of that can be satisfying. And it could take a lot of effort and energy to set and protect boundaries. There's so much explanation you feel is involved when you have to say no. Sometimes it's just easier to say yes, easier to just do it yourself. Another aspect of our emotional wellness is our desire to avoid the quiet reflection and the difficult thoughts and feelings that can come up when we actually have the space. Being busy can feel easier than being still. When we keep saying yes to everything, we're not managing time, we're managing our fear. FOMO, the fear of missing out. We're managing our fear of letting someone down, our fear of being seen as lazy or selfish. And that's especially so when it comes to caregivers. But every time we say yes out of fear, we trade a little piece of our energy and ourselves. Before we know it, the do-it-all trap has pulled us in. We fill every inch of our schedule, convinced that we're being productive, but what we're really doing is avoiding the stillness, because stillness forces us to face our own truths. And all of this, all of it together, is yet another way to pave the road to burnout. The bottom line is, even when you are the most energetic and you are on your game and you're loving this, doing it all doesn't work. But if you have any of the challenges that I mentioned, if life is shifting, if things are happening, if your health is failing, if simply you're getting older, you have less energy, or maybe you're in self-discovery mode where you're realizing that there's more to life, doing it all simply doesn't work. Let's clarify the cost of doing it all. I want to make sure this is really clear. If you've been in this pattern for a while, you know the toll it takes. I talked about the road to burnout. I talk about this all the time, but stay with me. Even if you don't want to admit it, that it's not working, I know you feel it. You wake up starting the day tired instead of rested. You forget what feeling rested feels like. You forget what feeling recharged feels like. Your creativity fades, your patience thins, and everything that used to feel purposeful now just feels like an obligation. Maybe you've noticed resentment creeping in and this inner monologue asking yourself, why am I doing this? Why is it always on me? And then you try to recover with that and feel this guilt thinking, I shouldn't feel this way. This is my choice. I chose this. But resentment and guilt are both signals telling you something's off balance. Your body and your brain are giving you feedback, telling you that this pace is not sustainable. And then, as I said, I'm sure you know what that next stage is. And this may sound familiar if you've listened to my episodes about burnout, especially episode 206 on the early signs of burnout. Those little things, those feelings of guilt, those feelings of dissatisfaction, questioning why you're doing things, and especially that resentment, where the same things that really worked for you no longer do. Yeah, those are the early signs. And if you want to hear more about that, go check out the episode. I'll put a link in the show notes. And even if burnout isn't your ultimate destination, you are still likely to deal with the impact of the guilt and the resentment and the struggle with how things are working. You'll deal with mistakes, and this shift in how you're feeling will affect your relationships and overall your quality of life. And I know that a lot of these things are intangible, but the cost of being dissatisfied with your life is greater than you can imagine. So what do we do instead? How do we shift out of this mode of wanting to and feeling like we need to do it all? First, we pause. We take a moment to breathe and then get honest about what's really going on. If you're sitting here with me thinking, yeah, this is exactly what's happening, something needs to give and it can't be me anymore. Well, that's a great first step. It's that awareness of what's going on. So you need to ask yourself, what are you expecting from yourself? And what are others expecting of you? Ask yourself if that feels doable for your current situation. Get real about where you're at and how much is too much. So often we are caught up in life and we don't check in to consider what our limits are. Or we simply think we have to go beyond our limits because that's how it is. That's how it needs to be. And then there's this aspect of not really wanting to acknowledge those limits. I know how humbling it can be to do that. It's like when you were younger and you used to move faster and lift heavier things, and now you sleep wrong and your neck is messed up. I mean, it can be frustrating to admit your current capacity and that things have changed and you can no longer do what you did before. That can feel like a hit to your own ego, right? But I would rather you feel the frustration that happens from honoring your current limits than the frustration of doing more than you can handle. One is a hit to the ego, but the other is a hit to your wellness and your future. Once you admit that there's something amiss, it's time to be very clear about all that you're doing, to get specific on what exactly is not working. It's time to take inventory of your tasks and thoughts. When I work with clients who feel stuck in this pattern or just in general are overwhelmed, because that's the reason you come to me, something is not working. One of the first exercises I recommend is my guided mind sweep, and it's one of the most popular for a reason. It's a quick but powerful way to get all those swirling to-dos and worries and shoulds that are going through your head out of your head and somewhere safe. It's a form of mental decluttering that I recommend you do at least weekly. But when you first feel the hints of overwhelm, it's an essential practice to capture it all safely so you can start to reduce your demands. When everything stays in your mind or remains a habit, you just go automatically, it can all feel equally important. But when you write it all down, you capture it someplace and review it, you get to see the bigger picture. Patterns start to emerge and you get a chance to process it all together and identify what's truly necessary. You can also see what's noise, what's excess. You can see what can wait as well as what can't wait and what belongs to someone else entirely. Like, how did this end up on my list? Sometimes those things are hard to see when you're in go mode, when you are in that automated, this is what I'm doing every day and I'm not thinking about it. You're probably taking on things that could be removed from your list, still accomplished, but maybe by someone else or maybe delegated. There's so many options, but you need to step back and be aware. So from there, once you have that big picture and that awareness, I encourage you to use the 80-20 principle, which might sound familiar because we just talked about it in the last episode. You can reduce what you do without necessarily reducing the results by finding those few actions that create the biggest impact. This idea that 20% of your input can actually get you 80% of the results, that is a big leveraging tool right there. Most of what's on your list doesn't deserve equal weight, even if it feels urgent at the moment. A lot of times it's someone else's urgent. It's critical to figure out which is which and find those things that are going to get you furthest, fastest. Prioritizing can be nerve-wracking. It's actually one of the biggest challenges I see with my clients. It's the thing that people come to me for help with the most. And when you're used to doing so much and scared you might miss something, prioritizing can be challenging, but it's essential protection for your energy and attention, the quality of work that you do. So selecting the right things at the right time means quality over quantity, but not as reduced quantity as you might expect. It doesn't mean sacrificing what needs doing. It's about separating out what you need to do and then deciding what to do with the rest. Some questions you can ask yourself: what actually requires me to do it? What can I simplify, delay intentionally, or delegate? And remember that delegation can be asking someone else to do it, paying someone else to do it, or using automation to help you out. You can also ask yourself, what would enough look like this week? Not perfect, not ideal, enough. I think way too often we don't give enough credit to the good enough idea. And enough each week, if you consistently do that, as opposed to having a week where you overachieve and do too much, and then you get sick, or you feel the burnout, or you simply need a break, or you can't sustain it, you start averaging out the highs and the lows. But instead, when you start balancing with these questions and you chip away each week, you'll be shocked at how much you accomplish over time. So when you start asking these questions, you begin shifting from managing tasks to managing energy. And that's where your real productivity lies. I want to acknowledge that one of the hardest parts of this process is letting go of who we used to be, that person who could do it all. When we let go of identity of any kind, we can experience loss, even if that loss is for your own good. It's like quitting a job that you didn't want or removing yourself from a toxic relationship. You may know in your heart it's the best choice, but there's still a loss. It's okay to grieve that loss, to grieve that version of yourself, to grieve what once was. But thriving in this next season of your life requires a different kind of strength, the kind that comes from knowing your limits and honoring them and making the most of what it is that you do. Doing it all might have worked when life was simpler or when adrenaline could carry us through. But even when it did, what was its real cost? We're not meant to live in perpetual overdrive. Our nervous systems aren't built for that. And please take this to heart. This is the crux, I think, of why we try to do so much as it is, why doing it all is revered in this way. But there's an inherent mistake or a misunderstanding within. Doing more doesn't make you more valuable. It just makes you more tired. It's time to identify what sustainable success is for you. When you design your days with intention instead of impulse, you create space for rest and creativity and being fully present, which means you truly experience and appreciate your life. You get to savor moments. You go from reactive to proactive and actually find that you will still achieve your goals, but you'll do it by finesse instead of force. That's what we're looking for. That is how you have sustainable success. If you've been trying to keep up, feeling like you're constantly behind no matter how much you do, please take this as your gentle reminder. You don't have to do it all. You're not meant to. You're meant to do what matters most, and in a way that honors your energy and your life, that honors you as a person. True success isn't about how much you can handle. It's about how well you align your efforts with your values, your energy, your season of life. As we close this episode today, I encourage you to sit with what we've talked about and consider if you're doing too much. If you want to change that too, because let's be honest, you probably are doing too much, but you need to hit that point where you say, it is too much and I need to change it. This is especially important to consider when an extra busy season like the holiday season is upon us. And if you're wondering how you could even start the process of considering what you do and how to reduce it, first, I encourage you to go to the resources page of the website, positivelyproductive.com/resources, and request the guided mind sweep. Listen to that, clear your brain of all the to-dos and the shoulds and the thoughts and the worries, and create a fresh slate to make some choices. And then, if you need further assistance, I welcome you to message me, and let's start with a clarity call. If you're feeling overwhelmed and you know you need some kind of support, you want to have that external processing and talk through it, that's exactly what a clarity call is for. It's short, it's budget-friendly, and it's a great place to start. For more details, go to positivelyproductive.com/clarity. Thank you for joining me today. Your time is precious, and I'm honored you chose to spend it with me. If you have feedback or questions, you can find me through the Connect page of the positivelyproductive.com website. And if you're looking for any of the resources mentioned here, from books to products to training and more, go to positivelyproductive.com/resources.